This conference will now be recorded.
All right, this is the Advisory Committee on Sustainability. We are having a special meeting dated November 11th, 2020, calling the meeting to order at 12:07, virtual only, as advertised on the agenda and submitted to the town clerk. The first item on the agenda is to approve the past minutes from last month. I just perused those. I don't have any content modifications. Anyone else?
Nope. I just have one question, of course. Under 2C, where it says grant section and application, it says under Highland, number 1, Craig reported that this project is processing nicely, but the town will apply for an IOBY grant rather than a sustainable CT grant. The IOBY grants, as I understand, are the sustainable CT grants? Wasn't it a different grant that
I think it was a steep. I think it was a steep grant. They just got it, actually, $80,000.
Yes, I saw that. $95,000.
Yeah, I think it was a STAP, maybe. I don't know, looking for it now. Pollinator.
I can just say a different grant.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's all I had.
That's a good catch. All right, can I have a?
Thank you for your thoroughness, Carolyn.
Can I have a
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, right? Minutes pass 5-0. Back to my agenda. Second item on the agenda are matters related to sustainable CT communication with like organizations. Any updates for this month?
Well, one thing is about getting together the materials for newcomers, which we don't want to gloss over because I think this is the time to sort of pin down who's going to do what, when, and where. Ed's not on the call, is he?
No, he's got day off. Part of my mess up on the meeting.
Okay. So I have the list of things that we discussed that we want to include. I think they all come from Ed, except the bit about the food composting. So I'll collect all those things from Ed. And when you have whatever is available for food composting, I'll collect that from you. How's that, Carolyn? You just let me know when.
Yeah. Well, and so I actually was going to ask Craig if I could share my screen when we get to that part about the postcard. But even if the postcard, it sounds to me like they need this material like now, like they're getting the bags together to distribute. The postcard won't be ready for a little bit. So, as I said, and I don't know if you saw my email yesterday, but I can just type something out and print it on my computer that we can then staple to like the trifold that directs people to DPW office to buy a kit and so forth. In the meantime, and then, like I said, if we get a list of who the newcomers are, I can always just go put a postcard in their mailbox when they come in.
I suspect we're not going to get that, to tell you the truth. And I think that we will establish with this first giving to them of a bundle, we'll establish a chain that can be repeated. I think every 3 months they're talking about. So
okay.
Yeah, the newcomers do. They kind of create ways to pay for it, right? So they don't want to just disseminate the list necessarily.
Okay, I understand.
But whatever, that sounds good. I mean, process-wise, it sounds good. And let's talk more about your postcard when we get to that section of the agenda. The other, go ahead.
well, this was a little different segment. Were you going to add something about the newcomer?
Nope. You
Oh,
can add
the
on.
only other, with regard to like-minded organizations, the only other thing I wanted to add is I know that the Darien Nature Center, as part of their strategic plan, they are wanting to increase like sustainable efforts. So I'm thinking that we have some potential to work with them, you know, whether it be on like the leaf blower initiative, if we decide to do that, or just, you know, giving them regular tips to include in their newsletter on water conservation, or, you know, reducing food waste, you know, that type of thing. I think that we have an opportunity to work pretty well with them. They're looking for content and things that they can sort of establish themselves as a place to go for sustainability.
I think that's good to know, and so we remind ourselves of opportunities to work with them. Also, since our last meeting, you did have the presentation at CCSMM.
Yeah.
How did it go?
Well, I don't think I'll get any awards for public speaking, but and
You're
there I
public
go.
speaking right now, and you're doing fine.
So I definitely, it was well received. It's available if anyone wants to watch it. I definitely went through the process that we went through in how we designed our food scrap recycling program, and I talked about how it works, you know, and some of the problems that we've had, and you know, I got through it, and like I said, it was well received. People were very polite and seemed to enjoy it, so I got through it. And best of all, though, I think, and I was going to save this for later, but I'll just say it now, is our program has sort of started the process of other towns having similar programs, to the point now where Greenwich, Norwalk, Rowayton, Westport, and New Canaan all have food scrap recycling programs. And I feel that our program was, you know, sort of, yeah, it was instrumental in sort of starting the ball rolling. And so
you can do this. It's not hard. It's not that costly, and yeah.
Exactly, and I've had there's been even further interest. I've had, you know, phone calls with people from Easton, people from Salisbury, Sharon, and Litchfield. So definitely, it's something, there's interest, and I feel like, you know, we were sort of the guinea pig, and you know, we did it, and people see that it's doable, and so it's happening.
That's awesome.
Can I ask, this may be out of order, but I know that where it got down to food waste and Board of Ed wish list, which is tabled, to the fact that Carolyn is receiving and entertaining, you know, and explaining to other communities, and knowing that the school system is in, you know, in a pandemic at the moment, but is there any kind of agreement that, knowing that something might take a really long time to even get a discussion off the ground, for future years, if there is a place for conversation to start?
I would say yes, and we can talk about that under item 4.
Okay, which looked like it was tabled, so I asked now. So
Yeah, we're going to open it up. We're going to maybe take it off the table. Put it back on the table. I don't know how the expression works. Start eating, you know. I did inform Jamie late that of our recommendation that we sign on to CCMM. She had a request that I make that pitch to the Board of Selectmen, so I'll take a deep breath and figure out my schedule and agree to that at some point. You know, as I understand it, as I've read everything, it's just a pledge, right? It's not there's no real teeth to it other than to say, we do care about this issue and we're going to try and help and do our part, which we're already doing, I think.
Yeah, it really just shows intent and sort of a commitment to try to work with, other towns, which we're already doing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we might as well be signed on.
All right, I'm going to move on to item 2B unless there's any other things under communication. Anything on any progress that you know of, Cliff, on the sustainable purchasing policy?
No, sorry, I can't get a peep out of them.
That's fine. Item 2C, grant selection. So what I took Highland off the agenda. If you want to know, they received their other grant, that's fine. And what I left was the potential for an electric vehicle charging station. Kathy, you were going to maybe look into grants that might have been awarded for that in the past. Any progress on that? Okay.
No.
Write it down, put it back on the top of the to-do list.
I have a file of all the EV stuff that I've been collecting. I just haven't acted on any of it or tried to understand it. Let's put it that way.
I understand. So I think the idea was if any towns had successfully received a grant for an EV charging station, which towns were they and how did they submit that grant?
I think either Westport or Fairfield did. I don't know if it's been awarded, but I read somewhere that either Fairfield or Westport applied for an IOBY grant for a charging station, I think.
You should be able to grab those if you still have your log on to the Sustainable CT website. You may be able to grab them there or reach out to one of the folks up at Sustainable CT. I'm sure they'd help.
And the people from Sustainable Fairfield County that have been working with electric vehicles and the busing and everything surrounding it, the EV, their EV Expo. So that's where I was gathering. I just don't have anything to report back.
That's fine. All right, item 2D, Cliff added a new item for the agenda, which is a discussion of leaf blowers. A handful of towns have begun to try to regulate their use, as they can be at first a noise nuisance, but also a pollution nuisance. Cliff, do you want to provide any thoughts?
Well, I know that there are a lot of people who are concerned about governmental overreach. And I in particular, well, it doesn't matter in particular who, but I mean, these leaf blowers, to my way of thinking, do generate a ton of pollution, both noise pollution. I mean, I live on Briarbrae Road. I don't know how many of you know the road, but our houses are fairly close together. I happen to live on an acre, but most of the plots here are like half an acre. Or less, and you've got 3 or 4 of these leaf blowing guys out there at the same time. It's a racket. They start at 8 o'clock in the morning and they go sometimes till 4 or 5 at night, and they're spewing out all of the these are gas-powered devices, and I mean, I think it'd be great if we could transition to electric ones. I think it's unrealistic to ask people to go back to rakes, even though that's very healthy, and I used to do it.
Hey, Cliff, no way. My father was a landscaper and I did it. No way.
If I were a little younger, I'd go back to the rake. I'm not going to do that now. It seems to me it would be a good thing if we could try to set it up to migrate in that direction. It's not something that can be done overnight. It's a significant cost to these landscapers. But if the town could say, listen, this is something that we would like to see happen. And we want you to be on notice about this, because as you're buying your new blowers, you should be considering getting electric ones, because we may mandate this in 5 years' time.
So I have an electric weed whacker, an electric lawnmower, and an electric leaf blower, and they all run on batteries that are interchangeable with one another. They're great for a homeowner with a modest size property. But a leaf blower in particular is the real power sucker. And the batteries don't even go cycling through 2 or 3 batteries, probably buy me 30 or 45 minutes worth of time running it full on. So the difficulty for the landscapers is, if you have 3 days of rain and then you have a dry day, you got to be running these machines from 8 in the morning to 6 at night because your customers expect you to get the job done. And so multiple machines running all day long, they would need to charge 100 batteries every night and bring them with them and change them out. Which, so again, I'm not providing excuses, and hopefully batteries continue to improve over time, but it certainly would seem onerous for a landscaper to use at least the cordless ones for the job that they have to do. And I don't want to cut this idea off at the knees before it starts. The 2 parts that I find most compelling. Dust is compelling, but and we don't leaf blow our lawn. We rake it because it's better for the bugs and the insects in the lawn to not be blown out of that environment. So I use it basically on my driveway and my deck. Anyway, so perhaps there is the first step, perhaps, is at least education. The did you know, right? So we can find that population of people that might be inclined to make a change. And that's how these things start, right? The idea of people willing to do something different first, and proving that it can be done differently, effectively on an optional or voluntary basis. And then you see what works and doesn't work out of that. And then perhaps, mandates or regulations could be crafted. The one area where I think maybe not such a steep climb is a restriction on hours. So I hear them, after 6 at night and on Sunday mornings. And, I think for the getting rid of noise pollution at odd times would seem to be a benefit to folks, and they probably would consider that in my thought first. But there's a lot of educational things. It doesn't have a muffler like a car does. It doesn't have any environmental controls like a car does. And so, it's spewing directly from an internal combustion engine out an exhaust at that volume and with whatever is created. So that was a piece that I found compelling, and the research that you found is, operating a leaf blower for a little while is significantly worse for the environment than driving around in a truck.
And for the people breathing in the proximity to it, you don't sit behind the back of a truck exhaust, but if you're working the leaf blower in your,
it's right there, and other people are walking around.
Yeah. Do we have? I've tried to find this for another reason. We've been looking into the noise in Norwalk for something else I work on, but are we clear on what the ordinances are currently here in Darien? Because I am not. We do
have a noise ordinance, but it simply echoes the state noise ordinance.
Right.
So, it's 80 dBA at the property boundary, I think, during the days, and then at night it kicks down to maybe 70 or 60 or some lower version, and what does that mean? And what is the dBA when you're 100 feet away from a leaf blower? I don't know these things, but so there is an ordinance.
But it's not by hour, I guess, is it? And does it?
It is. There's a daytime volume and then a nighttime volume.
Okay. And that's some of what we've been trying to figure out in Norwalk. What
I mean,
can you?
in general, it's reasonably permissive. You know, if you think about the types of activities that businesses need to conduct or contractors need to conduct or mowing your lawn, you know, like it's fairly, you know, it's 7 in the morning to, you know, 6 at night, or, you know, it's similar hours on Saturdays, slightly reduced hours on Sundays. It's a fairly permissive
Okay.
regulation.
And it gets back to, and the reason, and I've been trying to understand this, not only because of Cliff, but because of something else, is the difference between what is a zoning regulation or a health regulation, between where you know, where these ordinances fall and under what reasons. And
Yeah,
so
it's
that,
not, so noise in Darien at least is not under zoning per se. It's
Yeah.
in town code.
Okay.
I think it would fall, I'd have to look, it would fall to either health or public safety to it.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm learning. This is all new to me.
Yeah.
I think there's another reason that I'm concerned about this, and that is that these poor bastards who are doing it are destroying their ears in many cases because they're not even provided with headgear, and they're the ones who are breathing in most of these exhausts, and it just seems totally wrong. But let me come back, if I might, to what you were saying about the batteries, Craig. I thought that I had read in one of the articles that they had an industrial strength version of this that some landscapers are using, and that it can be done. Are you about a homeowner's type, or as far as you know?
Everything I bought, I got at Home Depot. So that's, you know, I'm sure it's a homeowner's type versus a contractor's type.
Craig, also there was the consideration, not just the type of blower, but I think the ordinance that Greenwich enacted had to do with the time of year. So, I mean, you know, obviously, you know, when in the fall, when leaves are a big issue, you know, you understand, you know, the need for using these big blowers, whatever type they are. However, we all know that these leaf blowers get used year round, and in the summer, they're basically just like to get a few leaves. I mean, they're basically just blowing up dirt and so forth.
And clippings.
Yeah, it is to get the dust and the you know, minor detritus and the clippings, and yeah, they use it, you know, with every service now.
Right, and I think Greenwich put restrictions on their use from Memorial Day through, I think, well, it was originally, I think, Labor Day, but then I think they changed it. So, I mean, that's a consideration too, irrespective of the having anything.
Yeah, and they went down to the other thing I thought was interesting and pretty restrictive was that you could only use one on one property at one time.
Yeah.
To avoid the cacophony of several going.
Yeah, because sometimes there's like, you know, two, depending on the size of the property, there's sometimes 2, 3, or 4 of them going simultaneously.
I thought, I mean, that was an interesting one. That was, I'm sure there's plenty of people not following that one, but
Yeah.
you don't want to create an ordinance that, you know, creates compliance issues either. That's just another burden on.
Right.
Yeah. Craig, I do like the idea and Cliff of education and beginning somewhere with the idea of, do you know this? And, you know, whether that's in written articles, you know, like the one that Carolyn's been doing for the magazine, whether it's, you know, the newspaper, whether it's our Facebook page, whether it's finding a garden shop or somebody that would entertain having a conversation, or a poster, or the library, you know, I'm not quite sure.
The Nature Center.
Darien Nature Center to, because I think, you know, even me and that's concerned and did some of the climate and fossil fuel, you know, how to reduce the use of fossil fuels training, it still wouldn't have put this at the top of, or put it at the top of my list or understood. So the average person in town isn't even going to be thinking about it. And that's not to be critical. That's just, you know, we all like, why didn't I think of that before kind of thing is. Yeah. So over the next, you know, and getting between now and when people start their spring cleanups, this is a perfect time to say, as you're starting to pick up your yards and spring and before this summer? Did you know? You know, and I would love to find people, you know, work on finding people that would think that would be a topic. I mean, it doesn't have to be a library presentation, but you know what I mean?
So
Just
kind of the one-page white paper on the did you know? That's so the other discussion I have is what is our role? I mean, I think it does. There's enough pieces of it that fall under the concepts of sustainability, whether it's the use of fossil fuels, the noise for a neighborhood, the
yes.
impacts if improperly used on insects and the ecology of the turf and so forth. So
that's just the facts.
Yeah, but also, Cliff, you know, there's an interesting kind of, you know, maybe it's a Department of Labor thing. You know, this is probably a not very well represented a group of workers that are exposed to, you know, noises and fumes that, you know, may not be OSHA compliant if they were more thoroughly investigated. So that's an interesting component to it. And an equitable component, right?
So I think we're all agreed on your very good point about education. Did you know? And as a first step in that direction, what I think I'd like to do is to try to pull together something that would answer Kathy's question, and that is where and how you disseminate something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, Carolyn is the ultimate expert at this, but I could just put it down into, you know, here are our dissemination points and so on. And of course, I would turn to Carolyn to do most of it for me, but we would work together. We would work together.
We got to protect Carolyn too. You know, she's a very valuable MVP here, so we got to.
But I have a secret. Cliff, you probably saw the piece that Bill Cavers wrote. Did you see?
Yeah, that was attached to one of the emails.
Yeah, that I mean, that's like a perfect article for, you know, like an opinion piece for the Darien Times or someplace. I mean, it's well written, it's informative. I think, you know, if you were willing to let us use it, you know, we could just, you know, put it around.
Is that something new, or did I miss that? I'm trying to...
Yeah,
Cliff attached it to one of his emails. Look at the emails from Cliff over the last couple of weeks. That the attachments to it. It's buried in there.
No, Bill Cavers. I'll go back and look.
Yeah, it talks about the health aspects and as well as
I think I know which one that was.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking is that we can have multiple channels of distribution. Some of them that would be suitable for all of that information, like an article in the paper, but others that will be for people who have very short attention spans and will just look at something very quickly, like the postings that you put on Facebook, for example. You know, a few bullet points. Did you know? Boom, 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 boom. And you can, you know, we can reach a lot of people that way. So I guess what I'm really talking about is
6-word bullet points. That's my favorite.
Yeah. So I think what I'm talking about is a strategy in a sense with some, you know, tangible, how do we do it in it.
And I think there's also, we should always focus on finding the passionate advocates, whether they're within our committee or not, right? And arming and activating and empowering to amplify the voice and not necessarily take 100% of the jobs on ourselves. But
right.
Well, that's one of the beauties of Facebook, actually. You know, Carolyn will post something on Facebook and Meg Tweedy will immediately repost it, which is great, you know, because you have different audiences and we get to more and more people that way. And if we have something like this communication strategy or education strategy, we can use it for other topics too. So I mean, it just feels to me like it's worth having this tool in our toolkit.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of communication with like organizations, to kind of create this, you know, DEG type network to get the word out under the broad umbrella of sustainability.
But I mean, ultimately, so if we were to start doing this, what would we hope to accomplish with it? Do we want people to try to identify landscapers that use only electric blowers? Do we want to encourage people to advocate for an ordinance about blowers? Do we want to try to, encourage people not to use blowers at all? I mean, what would our objective be? What would we be trying to encourage people to do by giving them this information? Or do we want to just give them the information and let them decide what they will with it?
I guess to take a page, yeah, I mean, I would like to start with
just putting some facts out there.
But, I suppose at the bottom of the education page, right, you could have a call to action. And to me, it would sound something like avoidance, then minimization, then mitigation, right? If you can avoid using them and choose to rake or sweep, yeah, maybe you should think about doing that. If you've got to use it, think about how many and how often, and maybe that can be reduced. And, when you are using it, is the equipment up to date, and are there alternatives to, the ladder gas powered versions, right? And that would be avoidance, minimization, mitigation.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think Craig kind of set the stage for this in my mind. It's to make people aware, and they can then decide what they're going to do about it. But
Exactly.
It doesn't look very promising in terms of, at least right now, getting some sort of an ordinance, unless it were about restricting hours, which would be a modification of existing ordinances.
Well, think about, similar to our food scrap ramp, right, Carolyn? So, maybe food scrap started at home with people food scrapping in their backyards. And then, enough people were doing that maybe it made sense to do a coordinated program at the town facility. And we're 2 years in now, and it's very popular, and it's spread to, half a dozen other municipalities, and we're presenting it to the state. And, maybe 3 years from now, it's a state program and it's required. And so, these things take time, but when you start with education and option, you never know where they're going to end up.
Right, gets people thinking.
And talking, and maybe you would stop in Home Depot and look at the electric leaf blower for yourself. If you had read that and go, I've got to replace mine, what would I use? So I think it could take different paths depending on who it was, who received the information. You're not going to change a landscaping company overnight nor create an ordinance. But if people don't even think that this is an issue, there will be not only awareness, there'll be no change over time. So.
All right, I'll allow you to summarize that, Cliff, in the minutes, and we'll move on.
Thank you, Cliff.
I guess our next item is town website. Pam is not on the call. We're already at 12:40, so I'm just going to skip it for now. So Board of Ed wish list, there was an election. The new Board of Ed is seated. They had a meeting last night or the night before to elect their new officers. I believe Tara has been replaced by Deneen. So we know who the players are. And to Kathy's point, I think, hopefully by next September, the way the schools operate is largely let back to normal. This certainly was what we're all hoping for and anticipating. And I don't think there's anything wrong with reaching out to the new members or the newly elected members of the Board of Ed and saying, hey, we'd like to have a conversation. We'd like to understand what the goals of the Board of Ed are related to sustainability. Here are some top hit points that we'd love to discuss or understand what the school is going to do, and see where the conversation leads and where we can help and where we can advocate.
Would you see that as making a presentation at one of their meetings? Well, how would you see that happen?
Well, let's start. I think, well, Kathy, you let me know, but I think first reaching out to folks on the board and saying, we have these thoughts. What's the best way to bring it to the board? How would you like us to do it? Do you want to have two people have a coffee first, or do you want us to make a, blah, blah, blah. And you can let us know what you think. Does that sound reasonable?
Yep. So who's going to do what?
Kathy, do you want to make contact on behalf of the board? She's got it. 2 thumbs up. We like that.
Yeah, and maybe they may say, yes, someone may say, yeah, let's sit down and have a coffee. Someone may say, don't talk to us, go to the superintendent. I mean, I don't know.
Which is fine, and we'll go there. I mean, let's start following the path. And, you know, I mean, superintendent, I'm sure would be a receptive voice to any town citizens that were concerned.
Sure.
You know,
start somewhere.
Gotta start somewhere. Just so it's time to pick up the phone and see where the path leads.
And what you will be doing is taking the things we have on our list so far to sort of pass by them and see what they think.
I think, my understanding would be very broadly, this is the Advisory Committee on Sustainability that advises the town of Darien, and we've, held off making introductions through crazy time now, and we'd like to know if you've thought about or have any ideas on areas of sustainability that might be food waste or electric buses or whatever it might be, solar buildings, and could we talk about what you're thinking or what you might need to know, or if we could start a relationship on the things that are important.
Perfect. Like, yeah, establishing again. I mean, Mike has been a very open liaison when it comes to facilities. There's some things that may be a little bit out of his control, and I think he would also like to know that he's operating with appropriate guidance and direction from above, right?
Yeah. And it may be if we hear from 2 or 3 different board members that say, we never really thought about it, we're so swamped, give us 6 months, or yes, let's have a coffee, or why don't you come and give us an intro at a Board of Ed meeting for 10 minutes, just who you are and what you might be able to offer to the Board of Ed. I mean, it could be that simple. So I don't know where it would go, Cliff. That's just the way that I would know to approach people and ask if that's okay with you guys.
I think, as I've said in the past, just getting it on the agenda is a huge first step, because then it starts the thinking and the talking. All right, thank you, Kathy. We're moving on to items related to recycling. I guess I probably should have taken A off of there. We'll have more on that later. B is really up to Ed and his contract negotiation. Has anyone seen anything different happening at the recycling center yet? No. C, shredding, we've tabled until we can have an event. So now we're on to the food scrap update.
Okay, so with regard to the tonnage that was collected in October, it was 2.71 tons, which like last month, September was a little bit less. We actually were collecting more in June, July, August. September and October have gone down a little bit. And I don't know if it's because fewer people are participating, or if, one of our goals, which is we hope that by recycling food scraps, people become more aware of food waste in general, and maybe they're becoming more efficient in managing food. I don't know. I anticipate that November and December will be higher because of the holidays and the pumpkins. But that it is what it is. It's the tonnage is, ever so, it's pretty steady actually. So, but it is a little bit less than it had been in the summertime. So that's that. I mentioned that Buchanan recently launched their own food scrap recycling program. So they join us, Greenwich, Norwalk, Rowayton, and Westport. So that's all good news. And then Craig, can I share my screen so that I can,
Sure.
I have a postcard that.
Yes, I have now allowed you to be a presenter, so I think you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, so let's see. Can you see that?
Not yet, no.
Okay, so it's not, okay, screen, okay. If this doesn't work, I'll just have to send it around to everyone to take a look at. What I did, I'll just describe basically. I wanted you to see it more for content rather than,
I can bump you up past presenter and make organizer. We could try that. If you want to try it again.
Okay,
You might have to kick that back to me eventually, but
where it says screen, but that's
yeah,
not, I don't have anything that says share screen. Open.
yeah, no, click the screen. It doesn't let you click
Nothing
it.
happens. It just does, nothing happens.
Mhm.
It's asking me to open system preferences, but that doesn't really seem to have anything to do with what we're doing here. That's odd. I have shared my screen with another Zoom call, so, but this isn't Zoom, so okay. I'll send it around to everyone then. Basically, it's I did a two-sided postcard. I mean, we can either do this size, which is 4 by 6, or this.
Oops. Oh, I messed up and I just kicked Carolyn off the call. Let me text her. I apologize. Carolyn, I kicked you off by mistake.
Here she comes.
Okay, she's coming.
Hi, I was dismissed from the meeting.
Yes, I'm sorry. I was trying to take away your presenter controls, but I ended up kicking you out of the meeting. So watch yourself.
So, either a 4 by 6 postcard or a 5 by 7 postcard. The price that I'm looking on one of these online printers, and the price is negligible between the two. So I can send it around and you can all kind of vote whether you want the bigger one or the smaller one. But basically what I did is I designed a two-sided postcard with a photo on the front of the postcard. And what I did is I just said, think before you scrape, and there's a picture and it says there's value in your food scraps. And then I basically just on the flip side talked about how food waste is such a large part of household trash, but Darien has a solution and it's easy, and this is what you do. And then a little picture of the food scrap recycling kits and telling people where they can get them. And then, if you have questions, here. So I really wanted you to kind of evaluate it for content, not formatting and things like that as much, because I know I have to do a little bit of work on that. But I'll take a screenshot of, I did it on PowerPoint, and then I was just going to transfer it to the online thing. I'll take a screenshot and I'll send them around, and you all can, tell me if am I missing, like some important information.
Yeah, sounds great.
Why not just send the PowerPoint file?
I can do that.
Do that for folks that can read that.
Sometimes they're hard to email though, because they're big, even though it's only 2 slides, but I can try.
That'd be cool if you could.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Okay.
Before you go off food scrap recycling, when you gave the tonnage and things a minute ago, I have kind of a dumb question. There are the kits, and then there are these like the recyclable bags and things like that. So when town hall was open, you could go in and get them, and then town hall is closed, and now I believe town hall's back open. But do we need to? I mean, that's kind of part for many people, is to be able to keep it, cleanly collect it and take it. Is there any way we can remind people that they can get their supplies at town hall right now? Or what I don't know is whether the markets, I saw New Canaan do something about having stuff for sale at their local supermarkets. If there's any way to give people more ways to get the material so they can collect their food scraps.
Yeah, Kathy, so even when town hall was closed to the public, the Department of Public Works was selling kits and compostable bags to people who are asking. But Darren had asked me not to really broadly publicize that, just because they had kind of a skeleton staff, and because of COVID. But if people had emailed the recycle@dariencT.gov or asked online, I directed people to go to, I directed them how to do that. Now that town hall is open again, yes, I thank you. I will, for the reminder, I will I will publicize that. That's where they
Yeah.
buy them and their bags.
I didn't even know that, so I
Is it-
appreciate that.
Is it worth
Okay.
also saying, if someone is choosing them to buy them from Amazon or somewhere, another retailer, perhaps we could include the whatever the
I do, yes,
certification or
yes.
rating or whatever that needs to be on the bag to confirm that they're accepted.
Yeah, BPI or the DST 600, right. Mhm.
So I'm
Okay, yeah, no, I'll definitely, I'll put that out.
I'm
Okay.
wondering if Kathy didn't have a point there that we might have we might be able to develop another point of distribution. I mean, suppose, I wonder if Palmer's, for example, would be willing to take 10 kits and a bunch of rolls and sell them on our behalf. And we say, this is the only grocery store we're going to put them in. And, it might increase traffic to your store.
You want me to talk to them, Craig?
No, I'd be happy to talk to them if people think it's a reasonable idea. If you think it's crazy, forget it.
Yeah, town government has generally tread lightly in partnerships with specific businesses. Not that we don't love Palmer's and want to support a locally owned business, we do. But when you choose a business, you're providing kind of the town's endorsement on it, and you're providing potential favoritism that other folks could protest. So I know that we've tread lightly in the past in regards to that. That's what I can say.
But to some degree of, now that we have this program and this is the amount that's being collected every month, would you be willing, no matter
To stock these bags? And here's what they're called.
stock the bags, would you sell tickets?
And we'll let people know that they can find them.
Yeah, and if they use them, they can take them to the dairy and dock. I mean, so it would be their initiative, not ours.
Yeah, that I think would be fine.
Okay, so I think I hear that, and I will volunteer to approach I think we have 3 grocery stores in Darien and ask them if they would be willing to carry these. We have 4? Oh, Trader Joe's. Ask them if they'd be willing to carry these bags.
Whole Foods already does carry the bio bags, which do meet the requirements. They're almost 3 times as expensive as what we sell them for, though. So, and I don't think the bio bags are as good as the bags we sell. They work, but that's an option. But it's, people can also order them online, and as long as they get the correct ones. And I do remind them what to look for. But again, even online, they're not as cheap as what we sell them for because of the quantity that we buy. We sell them at cost. So
I'm not looking for, I'm looking for the exposure, for the reminder by having them available, not what the cost is, or making that value judgment. The more people know that we food scrap, we have a way to recycle food scraps and that stuff is available, then I think
you were thinking more of it, it's the advertisement and the megaphone then versus the ability to get the bags. If you need the bags, you can find them.
So I'm concluding from this that what I was suggesting should be dropped, and instead we should go back to what we were originally talking about, which was to have a campaign to make people aware of this. The postcards were part of it. Another part of it was having a poster like the postcard that could be put at the grocery stores. And I would then advocate we go back to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the poster idea.
Yep, sounds good.
So we go with food scraps?
Yeah.
Any progress or information to share about the carry-in, carry-out policy for town properties?
No.
I haven't heard anything. I did actually email Jamie Gore just to see if it was something that Parks and Rec is continuing to pursue. And as soon as I hear back from her, I'll update you.
Thank you. And similarly, any status on the potential for propane canister stewardship via state legislation?
Yeah, I'll try to summarize this quickly just because I know we're pressed for time. There has been another meeting of the Connecticut Product Stewardship and excuse me, on November 6th. And basically this is happening. There is legislation that they're just trying to work out, you know, how, you know, like whether the fee should be embedded in the price of the item or if it should be a separate fee like we have with paint and mattresses. And there's, you know, there's been a lot of discussion over which is better. So, you know, those are the kinds of issues that they're talking about now. Senator Minor, who is the state senator who had proposed legislation last year, was reelected, and he will sponsor the legislation this year. Well, next upcoming legislature. And what I did want to bring up, though, is that they have this Connecticut Product Stewardship group is working with a professional sort of group, which they did also when they got paint through and mattresses. They're sort of looking for people for towns, because some towns actually pay a lot of money to manage to manage these cylinders.
And Norwalk does, right?
Yes. We don't accept them at our facility. Darren tells me that occasionally people do leave the bigger ones and then they take them to Pocon and Norwalk. I don't know how often that happens or how much we pay to do that. But you know, they're looking for like so all of the interested parties to sort of chip in some money to pay for this consultant who's helping to kind of steer this legislation through. So, you know, like given that we, you know, I mean, I think I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I hear the question. You haven't asked it yet, but I hear it coming.
So like Connecticut Deep pays between $10,000 and $15,000 a year for the cylinders that are left in the state parks.
So they would see a return on investment if this became a law, because they'd save that $10,000 or $15,000 a year.
We're not going to have a big return on investment because we don't put out a lot of money to manage them. So how do I deal with that? You know, when, you know, is Darien going to chip in some money for this? How do I answer that?
You know, all we can do is ask. So if they have a particular proposal and they're looking to fundraise, we can go to Jamie and say, you know, are we interested in providing even a token amount to pursue this? We think it's a great idea. We think will ultimately benefit from it, even if it's not a straight dollar amount, right? When you don't give anybody an option to dispose of it, it's being disposed of improperly.
Yes.
Right. It's ending up in the places that it shouldn't be ending up. That's how people are getting rid of it. And
right.
So it's the right thing to do. It makes a lot of sense. It improves our recycling rate. It improves safety. You know, I would be for, you know, making some donation to the cause, even if a token amount. And all we can do is ask the question.
So the question has been asked. So
do they have materials, or like, is there an email that question came in, or?
No, it came via the meeting.
Yeah.
It was just put out there that, I mean, like HRRA, I mean, you know, remember this is 12 different towns. I mean, I think they're chipping in, you know, and the executive director is sort of spearheading this effort. I mean, they're chipping in like $2,500.
I'm not sure I'm following you, Carolyn. Are you saying that they need money to help build up support for this bill?
To hire a consultant to push it,
yeah,
and do all the work, or do some of the work.
Yeah, there is. I'm just trying to. I don't have that. The Product Stewardship Institute, Cliff, is the organization that has sort of been put on retainer to sort of help steer this legislation through. They were the ones who helped with paint and with mattresses when they were approved. And they made the point that if this is approved by the Connecticut legislature, Connecticut, like we were with mattresses, Connecticut would be the first state in the nation to have a statewide policy on these cylinders. Their estimated cost is about $20,000 for their consulting to get this through. So they're asking various stakeholders, and I know that Jen from the HRRA is going to be asking some of the material recovery facilities and some of this, she's putting feelers out to some of these other interested parties to chip in because they have a vested interest in getting these out of the waste stream. But, she was also putting it out there to the people who were, in this meeting, of which I was one of them.
How many towns are involved in that group?
Well, the meeting, in the meeting the other day, there were roughly 12 to 16 participants, but I wasn't sure if everyone was representing a town or if they were representing like a group. They might have been from, like a different not-for-profit group. So.
Well, I mean, are we willing to sacrifice a piece of our limited budget, to make a token contribution of $100? I would have to get that approved. But.
Sure.
Well, I would certainly say yes, but I'm hesitant on, it doesn't feel like much of a token. And I mean, $20,000 is not a huge amount of money to raise, especially if you've got 10 or 20 towns. I mean, in Darien alone, there are tons of people who could write a check for that. And I don't know, I just sort of feel like as we need to find a way that the town puts in more than $100. I mean, maybe $1,000 would be more like it.
Well, the next meeting is in the process of being scheduled. It's either going to be next week or the following week. Do you want me to wait and see if there's more of a push to kind of get, like
it's only a week or two away, sure.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we can think about, if there is a push or a need to raise $1,000 or so bucks, how would we do it?
Okay.
All right, that's propane canisters. Dan, we're up to the swap shop section of the agenda, and the dogs have stopped barking, so we're good.
That dog of mine, I'm gonna kill him.
No, yeah.
That's what happens when you have a rescue. Yeah. On the draft brochure, did Jane get to you, Carolyn? Because she said she was going to talk to you about it. No?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to get to her because she said she had some ideas and she wanted to bounce them off of you and see how we can work it.
Okay. Yeah. No, I haven't heard from her.
Okay. When I get to her. On the vases, I talked to the Gardener Center and they have no interest. They really don't have any flowers and that type of thing. I have a call into Sandy Nielsen, and we've been playing telephone tag. But the owner of the Norotan Avenue flower shop liked the idea, and she is going to be coming to the swap shop to see, if there's anything available. And I'm going to use her as a place to see if, it's a good idea. And if she thinks that there's items that she can use, because she's an independent, and she could use, the items at this point in time. She's working on a tight budget, so this would really help her. So I'm going to see what she thinks, and if she likes it, we'll start to think about, putting it on the side for her and when she can come and get it. So I'm going to be talking to her about that, and if she likes it, and we have more than enough, then I'll go to the one on Tokenique Road, the flower shop on Tokenique Road, and then over to Palmer's. But in the meantime, I want to see what she says about, can she use the items? Because she's the one that can use the cost of goods on that end. And also, yes.
I was going to say, would there be anybody kind of in this pre-holiday season that does any you know, whether it's just the senior center, I'm trying to think of some place that would use them in for greenery, for holiday, that there might be, you know, somebody could use some stuff they didn't have to pay for. Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
idea.
that's a good idea. You know, if they live in town, they're coming to the swap shop.
Anyways,
So
maybe, yeah.
like the thrift shop comes and others come, so they would know about it. But these individual store owners that don't live in town, like this woman, you know,
Mhm.
had no idea. And
Yeah, I like the idea of a business owner in town, and just, you know, I think we're open to select businesses or groups being able to collect things that might otherwise just be discarded, right? So to the extent that we always tend to have extra of certain things, I think we should continue to find sources for it to be reused versus disposed of.
sure. And the other thing is, it was really
Someone
interesting.
doesn't have a sticker, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, St. Catherine's Church in Greenwich, parishioners live in town, and they started getting paperbacks to bring to to the church for people who needed them. That's very interesting. So we have quite an outreach and what's been collected and what's going out. Also, I called the Salvation Army for the large, you know, couches and others, and they said no, they just don't have the space for it. You know, they'd rather have smaller items. And I called Goodwill, and they had the same approach. They don't take large items. So I don't know who else we can call.
Well, I can suggest one. They're on Honey Spot Road near the brewery there.
Yes.
It's a Habitat for Humanity
Restore.
outlet, which they came to my house and picked up an IKEA dresser and took it away.
Is that where is that, Cliff? Is that past the
It's like exit
Optimum?
31.
Could you send me their address? I'll go and talk to them.
Yep.
Yeah,
The
send
other,
me their address. I'll reach out.
They come and
Excellent.
pick things up, and sometimes they ask for like a gas money donation, like $10 or something, but they basically do it free.
That's fantastic, because they could tell us what they want and we could hold it on the
When
side
you
for them.
have a thing that aligns with their need, you can give them a call.
Exactly. No, yeah, give me their address. I'll go and the other thing, Cliff, any idea on the drop-off sign, that sign that we talked about, you know, the handheld?
I have a vague recollection of what you're talking about, Dan, but this seems to have, we wanted a sign to tell people either to go in or go out.
Yeah, it was a sign that said on one side that you can flip it. One side said
Right.
drop off only, because getting back to what Kathleen said, you know, we have just these cars coming in, and
Right.
I'd rather say to them, drop off only, you know, because no lookers at this point in time, because we have too many cars coming in. And I've forgotten what the other side is. I'm having a relapse also. I know that one side was drop off only, and you had a good idea on the other side, Cliff.
Yeah. Well, I do recall we had a conversation about that, and I fear you need a new secretary, because I'm not sure it's in the minutes properly.
It missed the minutes.
I'll have to go back and take a look at the minutes, because you volunteered to go and get it.
Yeah, no, we're not getting rid of you yet, Cliff.
I'm going to go back and see what I can dig out on that.
Okay.
I feel as though somebody was going to design it and I was going to obtain it, but I'm not at all sure.
Okay, I have a fuzzy recollection also.
But conceptually, the idea is for these busy periods, you want to maybe encourage dropping off and limit shopping.
Yes,
So
exactly.
you want the ability kind of by the driveway, maybe it's one of the post signs that goes in a bucket of concrete, right? Where you could turn it around and it would say, you know, drop off only, no shopping, and then turn it around the other way, you know, shop at will, whatever you might say.
And as Kathleen stated, what we do is when it gets too full, I announce, okay, the 15-minute rule, you all have to leave. So
Yeah.
that's why the cars start leaving and we have to hold up for people to go back in. So it's quite a logistics scenario.
So I will go back and do that, Dan, but may I ask you to also think more about exactly what you want it to say?
Will
And
do.
let's put our heads together. We can make some progress on this offline.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Cliff,
Dan,
could
I-
you send me your email so we can communicate? I don't think I have
Okay.
your email.
I think you're going to find that it's included in every announcement of these meetings.
Oh, it is? Here, I have it right here.
Dan, I just texted you the information for Habitat for Humanity, the restore
Okay.
in Stratford.
Okay,
So it's on your phone.
fine, good, thank you.
It also, I send out the minutes, and every time I send out the minutes, it's from my email address.
Gotcha.
No,
I have to go back and take a look.
Related side note, I know that the local business chunk luggers have been trying to pursue creating effectively a retail shop where they can siphon the stuff that they're being asked to remove from houses and resell it. But that hasn't happened yet. But anyway.
They have it, Craig, but it's not, I know where
That's
it is.
just theirs, yeah.
Yeah, it's on Selleck Street in Stamford. It's kind of, it's not super well organized. And it's kind of difficult because a lot of times they don't have prices on things and you can't find someone to give you it's not quite ready for.
Not fully set up, not ready for prime time. All right. I have nothing to report on D. I've kind of fallen down on the job on that one. 7, related to budget. I think I got at least 5 yeses for vests. So I was going to ask Ed for up to $110 to buy the vests for people to use.
That'd be great.
And 8 is usually stuff that Ed reports, so I don't think we have anything to talk about there. Pam, you joined. Any updates about ideas for the town websites or changes to the town website?
Yeah, I had them all implemented that you guys had suggested. Linda was able to get that going.
So remind me what we can look for now.
Well, we just, you had sent me some of the documentation that we wanted up there. Here, see if I can switch over and see. Maybe I should do it from my phone.
Okay, yeah, so I'm on our advisory committee on sustainability page on the website. I see our certification report, our presentation to the Board of Selectmen, our charge, our recycling guide, sustainable CT actions, which guides generally our umbrella. So that stuff made it up there. That's good.
Yeah, what I wanted to circle back with is that we had, and I just wasn't super clear on. You were saying, everyone was saying is that we wanted some notification on the home page, but I really wasn't quite sure. I didn't know what kind of directive to give Linda. I just felt like, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend last night's meeting. I just before I started to tell her, and then I was like, I'm second guessing myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that part is a bigger part, right? That maybe you'd want to kind of define a vision for, and then we can kind of start talking about, because that's probably going to require, I'm guessing, a consultant to pursue. I think the idea is that if we are proud of the fact that Darien is taking efforts to be more sustainable, and the first selectman is proud of the fact that Darien is taking efforts to be more sustainable. How does that become a more integral part of our website, right? A part of the function and advertising of the town of Darien. So, why wouldn't the homepage say, Town of Darien is a sustainable community? We participate in sustainable CT. Click here for more information. That's the first, like, super low hurdle item to get added to the homepage, and then maybe that pushes to the advisory committee on sustainability. But more broadly, it is, as we know, the umbrella of these policies touches a lot of different pieces of town operation, and why shouldn't there be on VW page or the P&Z page or the health page, like they're a little piece of it. Here's the thing we did in the last 6 months to pursue sustainability. And so I guess, how do we bake it in to be more integral into what we're our public facing website? That's the vision statement, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, and that's why I started to say, I thought, are we putting that we'd won this award on the homepage, and yeah, that's where I just didn't really, I started noodling it and didn't really get a clear picture of what how comprehensive we wanted to be, if it was just a shout out.
Well, I think we're very willing to take the low hanging fruit and to take small steps, with the idea that 100 small steps will get us a long way. Right. So again, if it's, this was the first step, we actually have the information on there that can be found now. The other step, maybe it is that statement on the front page that just says, hey, we're a sustainable community, we're participating in this, here's the results.
Yeah, just even that Darien, Connecticut bronze certified, sustainable safety bronze certified community, and just
exclamation point.
Yeah,
that was sort of that was the angle I was going with Kathy. It's like, do we want just like a little bronze star saying, just to highlight? But then I remember talking about how it was going to filter it through, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to hold off telling her to do
and ultimately that might link to something else, or a link into our page, or for more information, and you can read something, whatever it might be. But just the idea, because part of what was important, I think, at the time that the selectmen approved this and Jamie was interested in it, was to be able to state how Darien was.
I'm looking at here. I'm going to share my
marketing themselves.
Let me close a couple of things here, and I'm going to share my screen in a sec. Maybe, or maybe not. Share website. Share. All right. So this is the home page of our website. And down at the bottom of the homepage of the website, there's a few.
Everybody, I'm happy to show.
And that was sort of where I was. That was kind of what I was thinking when I looked. Was down there was just, do we just want a bronze star there? With
each of these links through, right? This links through the bicentennial committee. This links through to that. Each one of these things link through. So that, yes, I would say as a start, that's a great start.
Okay, that was sort of the baseline that I was going with, but as I said, I stopped in my tracks, just sort of thinking, I don't know if that was what everybody meant. So
no, I think that's a great idea. And again, it's these steps to say, let's start promoting it. Let's start getting it out there. I think it's a great first step.
Do we have something that do they have a visual that they gave us, a logo?
We have the plaque.
No, but do they have,
Oh, like graphics?
Yeah.
I don't know. Kathy, do they?
I can put one together myself, but I just don't know if it has to be something.
It must be some sort of.
They do. If you go to their website, you can see kind of an image that they use.
Okay.
To represent. They might have some.
I can turn it into a logo. It's fine.
Yeah, they might have some media, and if you look around their website for people to download and use.
Yeah, I can.
Worst case,
crop it into a logo.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So
but I just wanted to make sure that was enough. It didn't sound that was what I was going to do.
It's never enough. But it's a great first step.
Okay.
Let's do the easy stuff, right? And the theme of the day has been, first every journey starts with one step.
Okay.
All right, where was I? So I think that's the end of the agenda. Anything else to talk about or include on next month's agenda? Thank you for excusing
Do
my.
we have to interview with Jamie to get, onto the board again?
So they reached out and asked, and I confirmed that everybody wants to re-up. We may have to do this is what we did last year, this is what we're going to do next year thing. I don't know how far they're going to go in terms of, requiring meet and greets with everybody. That's up to them.
Well, all I was going to say is if they do require meet and greets, I think we should all be on the same page about, especially when it comes to funding and if it's about these canisters, and if we all can articulate sort of what the economic needs are of this group, that is a great face-to-face
Yeah,
time
no,
to get
that's a
the ball
really good
rolling.
point. I'll add that to the next.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, I'll add that to the next agenda for discussion, and I'll ask the committee members, as I have towards the end of each year, what do you think we should try to accomplish in 2021? Because that can turn into our charge that they will ask for or modify. So you can go to the website and look at our last charge and come up with some ideas for our next one.
And I think that's where talking about the website and, having sat on that side of the table, and watched all you guys come in and talk and re-up, it was a great time for the board to talk sort of loosely. And but before it got to finances and all that, a lot of questions got answered, able to build support for a lot of these individual committees, so that by the time the budget gets established, that there's already an expectation there of.
That's an excellent piece of advice. So so let's talk. Well, we'll talk charge next time, and please send me your ideas and I can include it in the draft.
So Craig, you want us to send you, did you say you were gonna email us like a questionnaire, or do you want us just to send a?
What I can send is what it says now, and you can say, this is what I think we should take off and this is what I think we should add.
Okay, that's better to react to something than to just right.
Otherwise you might get like a dissertation from a few of us.
I'll either get nothing or I'll get too much.
Right. The other thing I just wanted to say with regard to the website and how to kind of acknowledge the bronze status and so forth is maybe we should, I'm always I don't think we should reinvent the wheel. Maybe we should see what some of our our peer communities, how they have sort of put it on their website. New Canaan just got certified bronze, but almost all of our neighboring communities either have silver or bronze status. So why don't we just take a look at what they're doing, and maybe we'll get some ideas.
Want to look at that, Pam?
Sure.
All right. We shall adjourn. 1:24 p.m.
Great.
And we will see you next time. And
bye. Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
have a happy modified Thanksgiving.